Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Kat, and today I want to be talking about the Instagram page that's titled No Food Rules. It is owned by Colleen Christensen, a registered dietitian, and this was brought to my attention from a Swolenormous video that I watched, and he was talking about her page, and he largely disagreed with a lot of the stuff she was promoting. So I thought it would be interesting if I came on and gave my opinion about her page and some of the things that she posts. So first of all, who in the heck am I and why does my opinion matter? First of all, it kind of doesn't if you don't want it to, but it'll be interesting, I think, for a discussion to be had about this. But I am a senior in the DPD program at University of Colorado at Colorado Springs. That's to say, I am in my second semester of a 3-semester long nutrition sequence that they have, so I am on the track to become a registered dietitian. After I finish my last 2 semesters of school, I will be applying for internships, and once you finish your internship, you can sit for the RD exam. So I am coming into the same field that Colleen is in. She's already an RD, so she has finished school, finished her internships, and taken the exam. She is an RD. I am not, so I definitely have not quite as much education as her, but I still think it would be interesting to hear some more thoughts on some of the things that she is promoting. So, like her page name suggests, No Food Rules, she really promotes not having rules and restrictions and like tit for tat kind of thoughts around food, which in a lot of ways I can see why she's promoting it, especially like reading some of her captions. She does like open up about like her personal life and how she has struggled with making those little food rules for herself. So I understand the intentions behind her page, and they are good intentions. I do believe they are good intentions. So she'll talk about like, you don't have to run X amount of miles to like burn off the calories if you want to eat like one cookie. Like, you know, that's not how food works. Like, that's not how burning calories works. It's not like you're burning that exact 300 calories from that exact cookie and it's gonna like undo eating that cookie. So in a lot of ways, I think what she's promoting is a good thing, right? Because we know like eating disordered and disordered behavior around food can come from these kinds of rules where like I have to stay within a certain amount of calories. Oh, I don't eat like white foods. I don't eat, you know, processed foods. Like, making rules like that for yourself can become very restrictive and can lead to very unhealthy eating patterns and thoughts and interactions around food. Like, right, we know that. However, I do agree with Swolenormous and when he thinks that it's gone like too far in the other direction, because the thing is, like Alan Roberts, a la Every Damn Day Fitness always says, you gotta make your content like you're talking to the dumbest person in your audience. And in Colleen's case, in No Food Rules case, I think you need to make your content as if you are showing it to the most, well, we would call it like health illiterate person, but the person who just isn't informed about healthcare or nutrition, right? You need to make your content as if like the most health uninformed and just not educated in nutrition person is going to be looking at your page, because they probably are. You have a open public profile. Anyone can come across your page and look at all the things that you're posting. So I think for someone like Colleen, who is not overweight, who seems to still eat like pretty healthfully, like she posts pictures where it's like, you know, sometimes her no food rules is like having her little salad and an apple, but also having like a cookie and some chips and stuff like that, and that's fine. But that's not always what her captions explain, because in my head, I think more like the like 80-20 idea, right? Where like 80% of your food is not as processed, it's more healthful, like whole grains and non-starchy vegetables and fruits and things like that. And then the other 20% can be whatever you want, you know, those foods that we really enjoy, like the cake and the cookies and the chips. But she doesn't really put that in her captions. She puts like, you know, no food rules. Like her little infographics are like, what kind of cereal is the best to eat? Whatever is, you know, tasty AF to you. And it's like, if you were working in a clinical setting, like if you were in a hospital and you had a client come in who was obese, pre-diabetic, high cholesterol, whatever, right? If you had them come in and you were doing your first session of counseling with them, if they told you that they just wanted to eat Fruit Loops all day, every day, like they were just so good and that's all they wanted to eat, you would not tell them that that's fine, like that's the healthiest cereal, is that whatever tastes good to you. You would not tell them that. You would probably pull out your little My Plate model and be like, okay, you can still have Fruit Loops, but let's talk about some other things that we can add in, and you know, make the portion of Fruit Loops a little bit smaller to change your diet so that you can not be a type 2 diabetic, and so you can get your cholesterol down so you don't get heart disease, things like that, right? Like you would not tell them that it's okay to eat as much Fruit Loops as they want all day, every day. If you did, I don't think you would hold your position very long at a hospital. And I don't think you would do that with a client. That's the thing, is that her content can come off that way, right? So it's depending on who like stumbles across it. I feel like they can take away that, you know, whatever they want to eat is okay, and they don't ever have to eat a vegetable if they don't want, which we know is not going to be good for them, right? It's not going to result in the best health outcomes for them, and they might not know that. So I think that if someone is fully informed and is fully aware of the consequences that their choices have, good or bad, because like there are consequences to eating vegetables, there are consequences to eating Fruit Loops. One is slightly more desirable to me than the other, right? Because I like to feel good and energetic and whatever. So like I eat like fiber and vegetables and not so much like sugar, because that just kind of does the high and the crash, and then I don't feel as good, right? Like, so there are consequences to both. So if someone is like fully informed on their like nutrition choices, and they're like, I acknowledge that, but having like a longer, to me, higher quality life isn't what they want, then like, fine, yeah, like no food rules, do what you want. But if you have people who aren't informed, which the vast majority of people that I have met are not, just because, like, honestly, public health education, not great as far as nutrition goes. Like, when I took health as a freshman in high school, they were like, oh yeah, eat vegetables and stretch. Also don't have sex, because they had an abstinence-based sex ed program. Anyways, not the point. Is that you're talking to people who are not educated, and you're not giving them that education either. And there are a few good posts that I found where she was talking about like cauliflower rice versus rice, and she was like, it was like split down the middle. I'll probably throw it up on the screen, right? But where it's like, myth, you have to eat cauliflower rice because it's the best option and carbs are the devil. Truth, your body needs carbs, so like shut up and eat some rice, right? And it's like, that's true and that's a good point, but her caption didn't explain why our bodies need carbs. And she has this other post that's like, what carb is the best for you? Whichever one tastes delicious. And it's like, but we know that that's not true. Like, we know that like less processed carbs, so like whole grains versus like bleached white flour, are different, and they have different nutrition, and like one has more fiber and more protein and the other does not. And we know that there are differences. So I think that if she added some more of those like educational pieces into the captions of her photos, that would be great. Like, I don't think she's coming from a place of like, literally just eat whatever you want. I think she's coming from a place of, it's okay to have junky foods. It's okay to have things that taste really good that we know aren't healthy for us, but that will make us happy. Like, and that is okay. But like I said, 80-20, right? Where like 80% of the time we're eating foods that we know are going to be better for us, are going to fuel us in the best way, and are going to help our health and longevity and quality of life down the line. And then the other 20% can be those special occasion foods when we want to go out with friends, or if we want to have grandma's cookies, or if we want to have, barbecue on 4th of July, like whatever, that's okay. Like, we can make that work. But I don't think she's making that very clear. And, I could be totally wrong for all I know, and that couldn't be like, that might not be what her thought process is, but I do think, looking at it and just like looking at some of the like things that she has posted under, I do think that that is where she's coming from, but I don't think she has thought about who all her content might be reaching. Because if you have someone who is like morbidly obese and literally has no food rules for themselves and eats fast food 3 or 4 times a day and doesn't ever eat fruit or non-starchy vegetables or things like that, like, I don't think that she would tell them like, yeah, like, you're doing great, like, make yourself happy, when we know that that increases their risk of cancer and really kindergarten quality of life as far as like mobility, longevity, and like just joint pain and things like that. Like, I don't think that that is what she's going for. So, and that was one other thing. Like, she has this post about hot dogs where they're like, or it's like childhood staple, delicious as heck, like all this other stuff. And like, she has down at the bottom, like, that it's like a myth that they'll make you unhealthy. And it's like, girl, like, those are a class 1 carcinogen. Like, we know that they will increase your risk for certain types of cancer, and so will being morbidly obese, which if you just ate hot dogs all day, every day, you could potentially become morbidly obese because it's pretty easy to eat a ton of hot dogs and still want more. Been there, done that, because again, no fiber. So yeah, I don't think she has thought about it from that perspective of making her content as if it will reach the most uninformed person out there, because it can and will. That's just how the internet works. Like, it's open, it's out there for everyone. So I think if she just like took a step back and reworked some of her content to be like, hey, like, you don't have to like earn chips, and if you're really craving some chips and you want that crunch, like, maybe pair them with some like carrots dipped in hummus and have your chips. Like, have something that has a little more fiber, a little more vitamins, and then have your pleasure food too. Like, have both so that you can feel satisfied, both like mentally and stomach wise, right? Because that's the thing, is that feeling full and feeling satisfied could be two very different things. So it's like, if you make posts like that and you explain like, hey, like, you can have chips, you just can't have only chips if you want to have the best possible health outcomes, right? So those are my thoughts on no food rules. I think that she is coming from a genuinely good place of not wanting people to have those like really terrible relationships with food where they're like really restrictive or like afraid to eat because they do have a fear of like having bad foods, when like in reality food is not out to get you. Like, the food isn't bad, it's just food, and then there are consequences to it, which depending on who you ask may be good or bad depending on the situation, right? So I don't think she is trying to come off quite the way that Swolenormous may have interpreted it, right? Like, I do think she's coming from a good place, but I do think that her captions and her infographics could use just a little bit of tweaking to make them just a little bit more educational, right? So when it's like talking about the cauliflower rice of like, hey, like, we actually need carbs, like, that's our body's preferred energy source, and like, did you know that having whole grains will have more like fiber and protein and B vitamins? So why wouldn't you want to have some brown rice instead of some cauliflower rice? Like, it's okay to have rice, even just like plain rice. It doesn't even have to be brown rice. Like, it's okay to have. There are reasons why you may want to have real white rice over cauliflower rice, and making things like that where it's like, hey, like, all these rules that you have. And like, she made a post about drinking wine with dinner, and she's like, I used to have a rule about not drinking my calories. And I feel like that's a pretty common one that people say, especially to people who are trying to lose weight. That's one of the first things people do, is like, oh, well, like, if you give up soda, if you give up the soft drinks, the alcohol, whatever, then you can drop weight that way, which is true, because depending on how much you are taking in with your liquids, with those sodas and alcohol and things like that, that can be enough to have some, like, I've known people who've dropped 20 pounds from cutting out soda because they didn't realize how many calories they were drinking, because you don't feel full off that, right? So like, that is a pretty common food rule that people have. But she didn't post about like, you know, you can plan for alcohol in your meals, right? And like, having just one glass of alcohol a day can actually raise your HDL cholesterol, the good cholesterol, and it has antioxidants. Like, she could have expanded on the post instead of just being like, no food rules, have what you want. She could have been like, hey, I know this is a pretty common like thing people do, but let's look at it in this way and be like, hey, like, this can actually be good for you. It could be good for you, you know, mentally, if you want to have that, you know, bit of a relaxing wind down at the end of the day, if you really enjoy the taste. And hey, guess what? If you just keep it to one glass, it'll also help raise your good cholesterol, and it has antioxidants. So if you plan for it to be in your diet, in your food intake, that can be okay. You don't have to drop out alcohol. That, I think, in my opinion, would have been a way better post than no food rules, now I just do it because that's what I want, which is fine. Like, of course, like, do what you want, but again, like I'm saying, is that I think just adding in that little bit more of like education and like you can kind of have your cake and eat it too, right? Like, you don't have to drop alcohol if you want to be a healthy person. You can still have it, and in fact, it can help you be a healthy person with HDL cholesterol and antioxidants. Like, that would be such a great post, and it would be so good for people to know, but that wasn't how it went. So anyways, those are my thoughts. Please let me know in the comments what your thoughts are on this situation, if you agree with me or followers, or if you think we're both idiots and should just let Colleen do whatever she wants. Because, I mean, obviously, I'm not trying to stop her or tell her that she should stop. It's her page. She can do what she wants. But yeah, let me know down below what you think of my thoughts on her. If you agree, if you disagree, please like and subscribe for more content. Thank you so much, and I will see you next time.